and is going to be talking about digital manipulation, and I will give over the mic to him. Thank you, Dennis, for doing this, and I just want to get Cardi at our time.
All right. Before we get into this, there's a short little clip we want to show that will kind of set the mood for everything. It's kind of self-explanatory.
Okay, so ready, 5 please. Camera's rolling, and we're recording sound. It's slated.
Before I get into anything, the cord on the mic is not that long, so if you do have something to say, I have probably about a 15-foot radius here, so I may need you to come up here and back. When we talk about digital manipulation, there has to be a starting point. On something like this, what is the starting point? Is it the woman, before the makeup, after the makeup, when the photo was taken? And any comments? There has to be a starting point where, say, this is where everything is, and we're going to change from that point on. So is it what you see? Is it what the camera captures? Any comments on this? Any little feedback? If somebody has anything to say?
The thought process.
The thought process?
This is what I want to do. That's where it begins.
But if you visualize something and you're capturing it, hasn't it already been altered?
You know what you're going to do.
I think the question that I feel has to come up front is the discussion tonight about digital manipulation reference to fine art design or reference to photography?
We're going to start with photography and work our way to fine art because there are different standards for different areas of photography.
Can you repeat the question?
He asked if we're going to be talking about digital manipulation regarding fine art or photography. And we're going to start with photography because there are different areas of photography where manipulation is more accepted, almost encouraged, and then we're going to end up with the fine art, which is where we're going to have our discussion for the most part. This is the National Press Photographers Association Code of Ethics regarding any press photographer, what they need to go by. It's a little hard to read. You don't want me to read all that. Basically, it tells you why photographing subjects do not intentionally contribute to, alter, or seek to alter or influence events. So they're referring to what is in front of the camera. As far as after the camera, it doesn't really say anything specific about after the image is taken. It's pretty much how to capture the image.
Respect the integrity of the photograph.
Right.
Good eye, Susan.
There we go. One of the first manipulated images. There was a gentleman who used to make these postcards and exaggerate things. People found it entertaining and it worked. So he actually took the concept of changing an image and marketed it, and it was successful. This is obviously done in the darkroom. That's something else to think about. We're talking about digital manipulation, but manipulation was done long before photography became digital. There was manipulation in front of the camera with lenses, filters. There was manipulation in the darkroom. So again, it comes down to what is the pure image? Is it what the camera has captured? So if it's what's on film, you have the ability to change how you print that film. You have the ability to change when you're printing it. You have the ability to change how it looks on paper. So what is a starting point? Or is there not a starting point? Yeah.
When your ideas of what you bring to taking a photograph of any type are part of that, but I think on that case, I always think of the starting point as whatever came out, whatever's on that card, whatever's on the film. That is where you start. There's a lot going on behind that, but actually we're talking starting, just working with it.
Being photographers, I would imagine what you do have in your camera is your starting point. That is what you have captured. Whatever you have done to capture it, you now have something. The concept is the starting point. But as far as manipulation, so just out of curiosity, how many people here would be referred to as straight shooters, people who do no manipulation whatsoever to your image? 3. Well, that's what we're trying to do, is define. Okay, once you have an image recorded in your camera, you do nothing else except print. Yes? Yes? 2.
Doesn't that matter what you're taking the picture for?
It doesn't matter what you're taking the photo for. The subject matter doesn't matter. We're talking process right now.
No, yeah, but that's what I mean. I mean, if you're taking the picture, the final the final output, the source is what you want to sell it to. Let's say it's an editorial source. They don't want a picture that you've done anything to. People lose their jobs for that.
Right, he's talking about an editorial photographer should not be changing because that's basically not allowed. You would lose your job. But as far as for now, fine art. Once you take an image, I was just curious how many people do not manipulate, alter whatsoever. We had I think like 2 to 3 hands here. Okay, so your starting point is once you have an image from the camera.
But
What about changing levels, contrast?
Before we go any further,
The problem with having a discussion, and I think it's a great discussion, we should do this, but I think at each point we all need to be willing to raise our hands and really shout out and interject, because every issue that comes up is going to have different viewpoints. So the viewpoint about trying to describe what is the beginning of a process with relation to a photograph, is that not just completely an arbitrary decision? And in case you doubt, I'm going to quote my teacher, Ansel Adams, who said to us in class more than once, and you've heard this and you've read this, I'm sure, if you've been around photography for a while, he said that he preconceives the image before he makes it. He looked at the scenes in Yosemite Park, he had a picture of what he wanted to happen in his mind, and then he went out and did the technical things necessary to achieve that. So, right there you have a conflict. Is it what he eventually got on the camera, or was it his preconception? And I think what might be fun to discuss and to toss out is what are all the possible starting points, not that there's just one. It's an arbitrary decision, is it not?
I think that might be a whole other evening worth of discussion as far as what is the starting point. Tonight is about digital manipulation, so we have to have a starting point of what you are manipulating, all right? So, moving on here. National Geographic. That image has been altered. Those 2 pyramids were moved together to fit to the cover.
Yes.
There are 2 different locations. Yes, yes. And some people, National Geographic, oh my God. But it's starting to come up where you have to be more aware, what is the final use? What is the outcome? Where the ends or the means will justify your ends. So if you need to have an image of this on the cover, well then you're going to do what you need to do to get it on there. It's more, at that point, it becomes more of the concept than the truth of the image, which is more of what we're going to talk about too. So, same image, 2 different magazines. One has been altered for a more dramatic effect. Now, altered as far as darkened. Nothing has been added, nothing has been taken out. Manipulation, which is more of the true picture. That is not Martha's body under her head. They used a model for that to give the impression that she is thinner. So,